let's shift our attention to what's happening in Cross River State. The state government came up with this initiative. It was just been launched, an entertainment center worth about 2 billion naira. The idea is to create jobs and also see how to tap the resources when it comes to entertainment in the state. How significant it is for a state like Cross River to look in that direction when it comes to generating revenue and resources for the state?
I hope that folks on Cross River will not be very annoyed because it's not significant at all to me. Again, if you look in terms of the value of the currency, 2 billion sounds really impressive, but 2 billion naira, really, when a film has just done 1 billion in a few weeks. So 2 billion naira is not that impressive, not that significant. Also because Cross River has Tinapa, right, that is rotting away. There hasn't been any attention focused on that thing for, a long time. So if you have a place like Tinapa that was originally designed as that entertainment city that people fly to from all over the world, we have that on one side, but we are now conceiving another entertainment city. I don't know, what the idea is. I get in terms of, the general, Cross River wants to be like the entertainment hub of Africa, of Nigeria, and all whatnot. But we do not need to reinvent the wheel. We already started doing something with the Donald Duke administration. And Tinapa ran for a few years, till mismanagement and everything ended it. So my thought will have been to resuscitate that. I mean, you already had a familiar thing going on. You had the top of mind recall. People knew Tinapa as that place, right? That's there. Now we want to build another entertainment city. At 2 billion naira, I'm really curious to see what that will look like. Is it just one building? Because if you are building an entertainment city, 2 billion naira is not a lot of money.
All right, but for Cross River, always looking to entertainment. First, you just mentioned the Tinapa, and now this new entertainment center, which is meant to be a one-stop entertainment center. Is there something to copy from that? Perhaps what they're doing, because not much of entertainment activities happening in Cross River State, but is there something to copy from that in Lagos State, which happens to be the hub of entertainment in Nigeria?
Is there something for Lagos to copy?
Yes.
I don't think so. Lagos has, and I'm biased, sorry, because I'm kind of Lagosian, but Lagos has set the pace for everybody to follow. There's nothing that Cross River wants to do in terms of entertainment that doesn't already exist in Lagos. Prior to now, there was a La Campagna Tropicana off the coast of, far away towards the Lekki side. There's the Ekpe resorts that people go to from everywhere. There's the Badagry angle of things. So in terms of building something new, I don't think Cross River has a lot to teach Lagos. What Cross River needs to do is to build those systems that have allowed Lagos to be that entertainment hub and just basically replicate it. We salute the fact that they're thinking, entertainment, and it's easy because we've seen countries, regions across the world done it. Go to South Africa, Cape Town, Durban, they are like entertainment hubs that they've built, while Port Elizabeth and Joburg are like the administrative and political capital, right? If you go to places like Monaco, the entire essence of Monaco is a holiday city. People have done this across the world. We just need to replicate it. The process of replicating it is what I'm not sure of how they want to get there. Because again, 2 billion naira is impressive if you hear it, but in real terms, what can it do, right? I'm hoping that 2 billion is a startup point, can be the entire thing that they want to do. I hope not.
Now, according to the statement released by the state government, the essence of doing this is to mainly create jobs, and also see how they can increase their IGR, internal revenue. Now, what do you make of the argument that there's a need for state governments to start looking inwards, to look at possibilities of increasing their IGR rather than depending on federal allocation?
I mean, going by what all of us as Nigerians have experienced in recent times, it is now a matter of compulsion that the IGR, the allocation for federal government is just not enough. The money is not there. So, it's incumbent on states to develop things of their own selves rather than just waiting at the end of the month. What happens when the federal government has very little revenue? And we know that there's very little revenue coming in. So it's really important that states look inward. Cross River is even a standout state, right? So they've built that. They've built a holiday destination. People go there. You think of Cross River, you think of tourism. There are other places across the country that have spectacular natural resources that nothing goes on there, right? And I don't want to name names, but, you know, if you look at places in the north, places in the middle belt, you know, and sometimes it's not their fault. You can look at Plateau and all of the things happening there. Do you get what I mean? You know, so you can see that maybe the insecurity is responsible for the lack of tourism in those places. But you also look at places like Bauchi that used to have, there's a, you know, games reserve that the name escapes me now, you know, that used to be really huge 20, 30 years ago. Yankari Games Reserve, right? It's no longer that. Those are things that other countries across the world have perfected. Dubai makes more from tourism, you know, about the same from tourism as their oil export nowadays. Everybody wants to go to Dubai. You know, Dubai is in the middle of the desert and they've built it. So it's really, really important that states in Nigeria, especially with our dwindling resources, that I don't think people typically appreciate how much problem we appear to be in. The money is simply not there. So what do we do to ensure that we have inflow of revenue, inflow of the dollars that we sorely need to develop our states and our societies?
Okay, if you look at this new entertainment center being built in Cross River State, it seems the aim mainly is to create jobs and take people off the streets. Is that a mismatch when entertainment development is looked at in Nigeria? Is that the approach through which you think Nigeria has approached entertainment and is not giving us the desired results?
So I salute them because they want to do it as, you know, to create jobs for people. But again, I go to the fact that how many jobs can you create out of that, you know, amount? We get that. And yes, entertainment does hold, you know, a lot of promise in terms of creating jobs and all whatnot. Say like a film set, for example. So the writers are getting paid, producers are getting paid, directors are getting paid, camera guys, crew members, makeup. So you have an entire gamut, you know, a roster of staff that are getting paid from one movie. So in that regard, yes, it can create jobs for people. However, the way entertainment is built, we haven't done it as much in Nigeria. I like when Nigerian artists travel out and say, oh, we just shut down the O2. Oh, I just had a fantastic concert in France. Yeah, it's good, right? But we are not going to get the economic benefits until those people come here and spend the money. Imagine if one of the big names, right, in Nigeria now has a concert in Lagos, in Cross River, in Lokoja, in Abuja, wherever, right? And then you fly in dozens of people as part of the crew, flying thousands more to attend. People, I have friends that left New York to go and see the Davido show in London. That's how serious it is. If we're able to attract those people to Nigeria, now they are bringing their money, they'll stay in hotels, right? The show is probably one day. So they'll probably go to a restaurant, they'll go shopping, they'll do all these sort of things. All of these things act in tandem with one another, and that's what can spike, you know, the activity in entertainment. So I don't think we've looked at it in those terms. A lot of times when Nigerian leaders and politicians think about entertainment, they look at it as an extra. Oh, okay, let's do something for the young people. It's not necessarily from the young people. You know, you look at people like Denzel Washington is nearly 70. Oprah Winfrey just turned 70. And these are people that are still power brokers in entertainment. So it's not something for young people. It's something that a society needs to deliberately invest in it so that it generates revenue that can last for ages.
Okay, wait. I just want to ask a follow-up to what you said. People traveled from New York to go to see Davido's show. Okay, now bring that to Nigeria. The hope that we can have such happen. Let's look at even the shows organized here in Nigeria. The challenges with it, the issues in terms of security, the organization, and even the artists showing up on time to the show. Would those be hindrances to having a replica of what we see abroad?
They could be, and again, I acknowledge the fact that we have challenges. We have security challenges, we have all of those things. But if we look at the top 10 countries that kidnapping is a huge problem, Nigeria is not one of the 10 worst kidnapping states across the world. There are other places in the world that have serious kidnap issues, right? But they've been able to manage it because to show that those things are, you know, anomalies, not the norm. That's what we have to kind of do in Nigeria. So when these things happen, they cannot be the norm. We cannot be used to it. So we have to tackle it that way. But it's a very valid concern because you don't want, you know, to be kidnapped. You don't want to have insecurity issues when you are coming here. But that's not enough to put people away. Now, entertainers themselves have their own issues, late coming, gate fees and all whatnot. That's another separate layer. But in general, there's no reason that we cannot be doing this. None.
Let's still look at what's happening Cross River.
Right.
You have, the former governor, Donald Duke, who made some efforts in getting, the attention of the ward to that state. You have the Calabar Festival.
Yeah.
You also have the Tinapa and all that. But when it comes to the issue of management of this resources over the years, what would be your take in that regard? And what are the lessons for successive governments to take from this?
I think the main lesson is that grand ideas are not enough. The actual work is in the mundane, everyday maintenance of things. So we can spend however we want to spend in building one facility. When the fanfare is done, people have gone to their house, how do we maintain them on a day-to-day? That's the thing that plagues us Nigerians. You drive on the road, it's until the road is in complete state of disrepair that they start to fix it. A common joke around with people who live in the UK is that you might be going to work in the morning, and by the time you are returning, they've shut down that road trying to fix it. In Dubai as well, you can't have specks of dirt or stones on the road because there's constant maintenance of it. We seem not to have that culture here, and that will affect things like Tinapa, like any entertainment, like any facility across any industry, because the boring work of maintaining it from day to day is not being done, and that just destroys everything else. So when people see a grand project like Tinapa that has fallen into this state of disrepair, it kind of might discourage other people from making the same investment. So in that regard, yes, it's sad that we don't have it, but we need to have it. It's everywhere. You go to the airport, which is the first contact a visitor has with your country. Your conveyor belt is probably not working. The toilets are probably bad. You get out on the road, there's somebody doing something on the road. All of those things, paint a negative picture that are not necessary, because yes, we have our challenges. Other countries in the world have theirs as well, but they manage theirs better than we seem to do ours.
Could the reason why these entertainment centers are not fully utilized be as a result of the focus on the kind of entertainment that happens in Nigeria? Take, for instance, the National Theatre. That's just one place that is barely used. And then it's Tinapa and other centers that have been built. Should there be some form of consultation with the stakeholders as to what is needed?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We cannot, there's a saying in Yoruba that you cannot shave somebody's head in their absence. You cannot be creating something for an industry when practitioners of those industries are not, integral to that process. So, if we are building something of that nature, if we are building things of that kind, we have to ensure that we are not doing it as a vanity project. We have to ensure that, we are feeling the pulse of the people, what needs to be done. And even most importantly, we have to also consider the economic power of the people, right? So if one of the criticisms of these Afrobeat stars, right, and I'm not a fan of the word Afrobeat, but that's a separate conversation. But the biggest critique of them is that their shows are too expensive. Now, you live in a nation that our minimum wage is what it is, right? That will only get you a regular ticket to attend a big show. So are you telling me that I'm going to work the entire month, don't remove money for transport, feeding, nothing, and just blow everything in one night for a show? We also
still get to stay at the regular side.
You say a popular side, you say at the regular, you are nowhere near to the stage. But those are the things that we need to factor in. So we need to, everything is intertwined. Entertainment, as important as it is, people have that scale of preference. It's not even scale of preference, it's opportunity cost. Am I eating or am I going to a show, right? Am I paying school fees or am I attending a concert? Once people have more economic power, it helps to develop the entertainment scene. So the entertainment scene cannot develop outside of core business, core economy, because one thing is dependent on the other.
Now, looking at the entertainment industry in Nigeria, that's actually in recent times, taking the country to, or give it what I call a global attention.
Yes.
If you look at, the history being made when it comes to filmmaking and all that. Now, what kind of policies should be put in place to encourage these entertainers, these stakeholders or practitioners in this industry, for them to thrive and for the entertainment industry to be better than what it is now?
In my view, we need to take it seriously as we do manufacturing, for instance, or, energy corporations or whatnot. It's hard for you as an entertainer to approach a financial, a bank, whatever it is, and say, I need X amount, give me a loan of this amount. You are going to need to work to convince them that your business is viable because it's not brick and mortar like a refinery or a cement factory, for instance. And those people get single-digit loans. Yeah, they get tax breaks for whatever it is that they're doing. The entertainment industry and entertainment companies need to enjoy similar policy from government, from all sectors, because at the end of the day, they are putting money in. It's important that the money comes out, right? We speak about a lady, Funke Akindele, who just did a movie. Again, $1 billion is impressive, but that's only $1 million and some change, right? When cinemas abroad have opening weekends, you see that they sell 27 million, 30 million, right? So, but you find out that these entertainers have financial partners that are committed to them long term. I think that's the most critical thing for entertainers in Nigeria, to be taken really seriously in terms of investment, in terms of financial support. I think that's major.
Let's do some comparison. Now,
yes,
for the entertainment industry, let's use the US, which has the biggest entertainment industry, and Nigeria would seem to have the biggest entertainment industry in Africa. What has worked for them that can be copied, or even some of it tweaked here?
Long-term play. Long-term play. You see film companies in the US have been around for 100 years. I don't think we have any corporation in Nigeria that is indigenous that has lasted for 100 years. So, again, it's just to piggyback off what Femi asked. We need to take it really seriously so that we can make 10-year, 20-year, 50-year projections. Outside of that, other things that have worked are, people say it a lot, structures. We need to build systems that can guarantee return on investment. I've seen video content of films that are still in the cinema. People are sharing it on WhatsApp. Abroad it happens, but it's not the norm. So we need to also re-engineer ourselves, reorientate ourselves to understand that entertainment, even though it's fun for us, is work for the practitioners. So it's important that we learn how these things are done in other places and pretty much replicate them here.
Before we go on a break, let's look at an aspect of this too. Now, abroad you have the film companies, you have Disney, you have different companies producing movies like HBO and the others. But bring it back to Nigeria, we see a lot of individualism. Oh, it's Funke Akindele, oh, it's Omoni Oboli and the others. What's the issue?
The issue is that structure is just not there. So which film company is here now that will give you $6 million, do a movie, let's talk in 3 years? It doesn't exist. So these filmmakers source for their funds themselves, source for investment and partners. There's a particular movie that I saw that with the list of producers, you could see that the actors that were in the film were also investors in the movie. It happens, but here it's just not there. So you find out that people are just doing it by themselves. And think about it, the music industry now was self-funded. Now we're starting to enjoy some type of patronage and international attention. Nollywood, which is like the home video, Nollywood came from home cinema. There used to be a big Nigerian cinema that had issues in the 80s. Nollywood itself came from home videos. People that were in the home video were bootstrapped. They did it themselves. They had no external funding. So if I've done 6 movies by myself and I've been successful at it, what's the incentive to now dilute my own shares, my own investment by bringing somebody on board? Do you get me? So that's like the thinking. But it would be much safer for everybody if there were companies that were bearing this risk on behalf of these filmmakers, so they can just go and be artistic.
Let's look at the issue of technology, the issue of infrastructural deficit, which at a point, if you look at the filmmaking in Nigeria or music production, South Africa was just the focus due to reasons like this issue of technology, the affordability and the equipment. Now, as a nation looking at Nigeria, how have we gone when it comes to this area of technology? And then looking at the deficit that we have in Nigeria, what should be the starting point in order to promote proper investment and also encourage these practitioners to do well in their businesses?
So some analogy that I think of in my head is that if, there was a volcanic eruption, like Mount Vesuvius in Italy back in the day, and it covered the entire Nigeria, and people discovered us in another 100 years, they'll be shocked at the stark disparities between point A and point B. So we live in Nigeria that we have really bad infrastructure. Let's just be honest. Our roads are not up to par. I don't think anybody still has public water supply, all of those things. But at the same time, people are so technologically savvy that it's incredible. You get on the streets now, an iPhone 14 is commonplace, right? A Samsung smartphone is commonplace. And these are things that ordinarily one would think that, with the fact that with how Nigeria is suffering from XYZ, they shouldn't have access to these things. So that's the incredible thing about Nigeria. And I think that's one unique factor about Nigeria that even foreigners seem not to get. So we are very technologically savvy. The reason that the music industry, for instance, has been able to develop this quickly is that people really adapted to technology early on. I know that as far back as 1998, some rapper, LD, who is a friend of mine, was already making music with computers. Was doing that as far back as 1998. Even Nice, who was not a, what's it called now, from a very middle-class family. Nice will let you know that it's from the hood. As early as 2003, was already moving diskettes and looking for CD writers and all over the place. So that tells you that there's a certain level of ingenuity that is Nigerian, that all we need is one exposure to anything, and then we can do it by ourselves. So from that standpoint, we have that innate ability in us for us to see how things are done and do it better. The problem we seem to have is that these technologies are not developed by us. It's not homegrown. So we are dependent on whatever happens abroad to do anything. So that might cause us to slow down. And I shudder to think of how much more we can do if we are, like one IT country, like the way Israel has built a software company, right? Or countries in the Eastern Bloc, or China, for instance. It will be incredible the things we'll be able to achieve. But I also know that we live in a globalized world, that knowledge is not confined to any region. So you can pull up your smartphone right now. I came up in an era that music releases used to be scheduled. So I write the song, take it to a studio, buy time, 4 hours or 8 hours, produce it, and then look for who to give it to play it on radio. As we speak right now, we could pick up your phone, record a song, and release it like right now. That's how incredible the technology is. So that has also helped us to build all of these things. So we have all of these apps. I was just looking at one that has a newly released app, and that app is slick. Do you understand? But it's not a Nigerian company, but we use it as Nigerian. So it's that balance that we need to find, because we are very technologically savvy. We just now need to develop those pieces of technology by ourselves.
Okay, now let's do an assessment of the entertainment industry in terms of recognition, international recognition. We know that Nollywood is well recognized, and even Nigerian artists have been recognized. But so far, in terms of movie, we're yet to find a Nigerian movie that has won the Oscars. For music, we could say, okay, some Nigerian artists are beginning to pick Grammys. What is the missing link?
The missing link to me is that the Oscar committee still hasn't seen enough of Nigerian film. The Grammy, we had to literally beat them over the head, first of all, to stop lumping Nigerian music in a world music category. And world music means that Femi Kuti was listed in the same category with somebody from Fiji, right? It's difficult to make that distinction. And about a year ago, the Grammy announced that we're actually creating a category for African music. And that includes my personal favorite, Fuji music, Afrobeats, all of these things. So the Oscar, I'm afraid, still doesn't have that access to Nigerian films. Again, because it's more difficult to make movies. than music. Movies take a long time to produce. There's a lot of moving parts as opposed to music that you can just play and go. So I believe strongly that and I think we have a voting committee on the Oscar now. I think you have like 10 people that can submit films and all of that. They just need to do that on a more consistent basis. But what would be the game changer is that the Oscar develops, a category solely for African film. I think having that kind of platform will give our filmmakers from across Africa the opportunity to say, okay, yeah, we know that we are not Superman or Spider-Man or all of these big budget movies that you do, but see what we're able to do in our own small community. Again, goes back to filmmakers like Kunle Afolayan, filmmakers like Funke Akindele, for instance, all of them. As we say in Nigeria, they are really trying. So if you limit that, their exposure to just this Nigerian community, it does a disservice to what they can show to the world that they have. Imagine if, all of these guys are making epic movies. I was seeing Woman King recently, and I shook my head at how much, they were able to get the time of the 1800s that the film was set in. If we try to do an epic film in Nigeria, we know the constraints that we have, right? Imagine if we could do those epics with the kind of budget that Sony has. Imagine how incredible that would be.
Now, let's look at the streaming platforms. If you look at the popular names or the ones that are the front seats in Nigeria, yes, you have the foreign names.
Yes.
If you look at how huge the film industry is in Nigeria, don't you think it's time we start having local streaming platforms?
I absolutely
agree. And what would be the impact of that?
I absolutely agree. So the impact is that there are no gatekeepers. You own the content and then you own the streaming platform that it goes on. You as Nigerians, as Africans, we understand the context, in which we do certain things. Some of the jokes that will not carry over into international streaming platform because it's us, it needs no translation. It makes it seamless. My one fear or concern, because I've seen it, take Iroko for instance, right, who pretty much started Nollywood film streaming. But the guy had to deal with the pressing, fluctuation in FX. And he said he was making more from subscribers in Texas than the entire Nigeria alone. Because the technology is not home built. It's expensive to run a streaming platform. Even the biggest of them right now, Netflix, just announced that they will be doing live events in addition to just films and content and all that, because it's expensive. So you need people to be return customers. You need people to pay for wrestling this week and then pay for it next week, as opposed to watching House of Cards an entire weekend. So it's expensive to run. But I totally agree with you that perhaps we don't need to build a juggernaut that will compete with Netflix right off the bat. Perhaps find Baba Salah, find Peter Doce, find a number of them. Know that I'm getting this streaming platform only to watch Nigerian classics from 1980 to 1990. Perhaps that's an angle that we could look at so that we can scale it up. But it's important that we start to develop, I've been saying this for years, it's important that we start to develop platforms that are ours. Because take, for example, Prime came to Nigeria less than 2 years ago. Now they've announced that they are cutting back on original programming for the entire Africa. There's nothing we can do about it. But what if they were a Nigerian company that was supported by the Nigerian system, institutions? We can extend this further than what will now depend on foreign platforms to do for us.
All right, talking about upscaling, there are records that are classics, maybe
Yes.
done or released several years ago, 30 years ago, and the artists of those songs still make money off them. But we do not seem to have such songs with stay power in Nigeria. An artist releases a song, it trends for like 4 months, 5 months, let's say max 1 year, and that's it. How can the artist grow to the level of having songs with stay power?
So those are some of the things that we'll have to deal with. Again, to a large extent, and I know what you mean, and I'm a big fan. I'm the first person that will critique them for having popcorn music that is fast disposable, and 4 days is done. But bear in mind that Spotify ingests about 150,000 songs per day across the world, per day. It's difficult to cut through the noise. So you just want to do something that is hot and sizzling and chase the next high. That's the price that we pay for the barrier to entry that has been lowered. Now, where you needed 6 people to authorize your song before it gets released, you're your own person now, your own DJ, you can put it out right now. That's the price to pay. But I also think that in terms of building something that is lasting, these artists need to build communities. We've seen it before that entertainers who have communities, they are not selling to 10,000 people, but they have 1,000 core fans and they sell to those guys over and over again. I think very strongly that building those communities will help, but we cannot also remove ourselves from actual good stuff, to be honest. There's no how you want to couch poor lyricism, poor production is poor. So we just need to up the game. But again, it's not just a Nigerian problem. What I also listen to in addition to Fuji is hip-hop. Hip-hop of 1990 and 2000 is far different from what we have now. And I say it a lot, they have mumble raps and they just go, you can't hear nothing, right? But that's the era that they live in. So if you are going to be different, you need to be deliberate in carving out that niche for yourself so people come to you. There's a guy called J. Cole who hasn't released a record in years, but is still regarded as one of the finest rappers ever lived because his core audience knows that anytime you hear a J. Cole feature, you are getting top stuff. That's where we need to get to.
But does it have any financial implication in terms of how much they get to earn from their work?
In terms of
the duration of your material, does it have a financial implication?
It depends on what you want to do. If you are a hot star now, and we've seen them, right? We've seen people who had brief moments, and they do everything in that brief moment to get the maximum because they know that we are chasing the next eye. So in terms, yes, it has impact. You can get something very quickly, and before people get bored, you're done and gone, right? It also has impact on people who want to play the long game. So if you are here for the long game, you know that if I release a song, I need to promote it, I need to sell merchandise, I need to do a movie soundtrack so that I can make more money in the long term. But, you know, to each his own.